The warehouse is open. Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 53, talking greatness, G-R-8, N-E-S-S, with DSP. Pleased to be joined by Stanley Cup champion, 8-ish seasons in the NHL, with Anaheim, Montreal, New Jersey, most notably the Washington Capitals. It's Devante Smith-Pelly, kind enough to join us in the warehouse. These days, you can see Devante's excellent work on the Monumental Network as an analyst for Washington Capitals broadcast. DSP, thanks for coming aboard. We appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Always. DSP's been busy of late, as has our other guest, Barry Meisel, president and COO of MeiGray. That's MeiGray.com, the most trusted source for game-worn memorabilia, exclusive partnerships with the likes of the Caps, the Flyers, the Devils, the Preds, the Wild, Columbus, and on the NBA side, and not limited to, Charlotte, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Lakers, so much more, including MeiGrayAuctions.com. Speaking of, and Barry, I'll defer to you on this because there's some pretty amazing stuff with the great Chase Ovechkin jerseys available at MeiGray.com right now. But also, there's an auction at sports.ha.com. It's a partnership between MeiGray and Heritage. And DSP, you got to join me as my mouth just hits the floor here. Names like Ovi, as well as Sidney Crosby's Winter Classic game-worn Penguins jersey from 2011 with the skating penguin felt crest. There's a McDavid. There's a Yager milestone sweater in here. There's a Gretzky. There's two Gretzkys. There's a Gordie Howe Arrows, Houston Arrows photo matched. Barry, can you tell me a little bit about the partnership with Heritage and what's going on in this auction?
Yeah, we felt the time was right. Hockey is taking center stage. Obviously, if you're a sports fan, if you know anything about professional sports, Ovi spent the whole season climbing the hockey Mount Olympus. And when Gretzky was the guy at the top and he was about to surpass Gretzky, the whole sports world was watching. And we wanted to celebrate in our world of game worn jerseys with the best of the best, while the great eight was going after the great one. So it's a chance in our world of game worn jerseys and in the world of authentication to celebrate something we didn't think we'd see once in a lifetime, and we were all lucky enough to see once.
Unbelievable. He ties it as we record this past Friday night against the Blackhawks with a 2-goal performance and then breaks it against the New York Islanders. We'll get into sort of the whole behind the scenes with regard to the sweater. DSP, you cover the team. You're an analyst. You were lucky enough to be in the building. First, I want to shine the spotlight on you because you were such an immense part of the Cup run. 7 postseason goals during the Cup run, including the tying one in the clincher at Vegas. And then as part of sort of the deserved honorifics, because you are a fan favorite, you're much beloved here in the DC area, you were part of the most recent Eras Night, which happened to be on Friday night when Ovi gets within 1 and then ties. Tell me a little bit about your night, my friend, because it was you, Brooks Orpik, Nicholas Backstrom, TJ Oshie, and Braden Holtby, ceremonial puck drop, and then the world explodes and Ovi ties the great one. Floor's yours, my friend.
Yeah, so it's the 50th anniversary of the Capitals, so they've been doing these era nights, and then when we're obviously been following the chase, and we knew our night was coming up, so we were kind of seeing, all right, hopefully maybe it might be that night. We'll see how many goals he is away that night. We don't know, and when we saw it was going to be 3 goals, I mean, I think all of us got super excited just because we know him, and we know he's a showman. We know that a Friday night in DC. He's going to come to play. So personally, we all thought he was getting a hat trick, and he almost did. But we had a great feeling that he was going to at least get 2. And even from the morning, it's hard to explain the buzz at the rink. Kind of felt like the beginning of the playoffs type buzz, a lot more cameras, just that optimism that comes with the playoffs or something special could be happening. So, but in the room, Ovi was chill as ever, still doing his same old thing, laying on the couch playing his phone games. It was like another game to him. So that's how the day started, and then obviously getting to go on the ice and then hear the crowd reception and be out there with those other guys who, who obviously are amazing players and superstars themselves. So um, it was a great start to what ended up being a special night. But um, we were excited to be there. We were excited to be a part of it. And like I said, we knew that night was going to be special, whether he passed it or tied the record.
Devante, as a player who played as long as you did, and were a typical NHL player, you weren't coming close to Ovi. You know how hard it is to score an NHL goal. And you played 10 years and you had a great role. When you spent 2 years with him, day by day after day after day, can you talk a little bit about another NHL player's awe for a guy who makes it look, I don't want to say easy, but who has done the impossible? What was it like next to him when 894 wasn't in people's minds yet, but you knew you were looking at greatness day after day after day?
I mean, he does make it look easy. It's crazy. I mean, when we played together, he's obviously younger at that point, a little bit faster. The way he was scoring goals was a little bit different, but it was just every day. Just the shot. I mean, he would take it. He would take the power off in practice because that shot is dangerous. So there's no one timers in practice or anything like that. But I still remember one of my first games on the team against the New Jersey Devils. We're sitting on the bench. It's the second period, and where we sit, we have the perfect angle behind his office, and he took like a half wrist shot, and there was no space, and it was like barred down. And I remember like being like, "Holy, can I swear on here?" Or like I was being like, "Holy shit!" Um, and I found myself saying that almost every other game with that shot. It just impossible to replicate. We all trade sticks and try out. He's the only one who can do it with that stick. Anyone else who tries it, shoots it 15 feet over the net, or fans on it and it goes 10 feet wide. Um, it was amazing to be a part of, and seeing it firsthand every night.
Devante, you played with Ovi. You crossed paths and played with Teemu Selanne, another famous number 8. You played with other guys like Nicholas Backstrom here in Washington, Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaff, and the like. What is different about Ovi and that massive greatness, and what's the same about the massive greatness from those guys?
I would say what's different is I'm going to be careful what I say, but he when you think of those all-time greats, you think 8 hours of sleep. You think salmon and no sauce, and you think that's kind of what you think. And he's the total opposite of that. He eats what he wants. He drinks what he wants. Um, so it's kind of funny. I was talking to Brooks Orpik. He's in development, and he has to tell the guys in Hershey and the younger players, like, I know you look up to Ovi, but this works for quite literally one person and one person only. He's the only person who could do that. So that's where he's different from these guys. Teemu Selanne was very serious about, um, his body. Ryan Getz, all those guys, very serious about their body. And not that Ovi isn't serious about his body, because he gets his massages, he does his cold tub, hot tub, all that stuff. But um, he's unique in the fact that, if he wants a burger, he's getting one. If he wants wings, he's getting it. If he wants to drink a couple beers, he's doing that as well. He doesn't really care. So that's how they're different. How they're the same is just the way they see the game. Those guys are just 3, 4 steps ahead of everything. All different players. I'll use Nicholas Backstrom as a example. Pretty slow skater, to be honest. Not the fastest guy, but when he gets it, he head up at all times. He can see 2, 3 steps ahead of not only guys on our own team, but guys on the other side. So I think that's kind of where all those players are the same. Is they will see things that not everyone sees. And I played a couple. I played more than a couple games with Ovi on his line, and sometimes you get the puck and you come back to the bench, and he's like, "Well, you didn't see me." I'm like, I mean, I'm looking for you. It's not as easy as you think it is. I promise I'm looking for you.
He's
So
like one of those wide receivers, Devante, who always complained, "I'm open, I'm
yeah,
open, I'm open," and you're like, "Sure, you may have, you play in another atmosphere. I'm doing the
yeah,
best I can."
exactly. It's like I promise I'm looking for you. I want you to get it. It just doesn't. What I see and what you guys are seeing is a little bit different.
Does that make you a better player when you have a guy like that who if you get him the puck, there's a good chance it's going to be in the net, and obviously that's a plus for you and an assist for
Yeah.
you. And does it give you that a little added something? Not that you're not working as hard and trying as hard as you can.
Yeah, it definitely makes you a better player. If you play on his line for extended time, you're gonna get way more points, that's for sure. But I think even like I said, when I get the puck and he says he's open, I would look at it after the game, and you kind of learn what one of the best, well, the best goal scorer in NHL history, what he's thinking, what he sees, and you can try to take it into, you know, obviously when I go back to my third, fourth line, it's not going to be the same, but I can kind of remember, okay, when I got it last time, this is what Ovi saw, this is what he wanted me to do, and you can kind of bring it into, um, a different situation. So being on the line makes you better. You're gonna get points, that's for sure. And even being just around, seeing practice, picking their brain, definitely makes you better as well.
It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 53, talking greatness, Gr8ness, with DSP, Devante Smith-Pelly, Barry Meisel, President and COO of MeiGray, MeiGray.com, the most trusted source for game-worn memorabilia, nice enough to stop by the warehouse. Barry, we'll get your angle from Friday night in a second. Devante, when I talked to you on Saturday afternoon, after the record was tied, you said it was an unbelievable night. Was there, and again, tell tales, go as whatever makes you comfortable. What was, and again, I'm sure Sunday was an even bigger, amazing celebration. What was the Friday night aftermath like? I watched it in my family room with my kids. I saw the Bud Light and Sergei Kacharov, the legendary media relations guy, really one of the best dudes you'll ever come across. Sergey was there, and Ovi's there in shorts and shower shoes and popping a Bud Light and just
Yeah.
taking questions. And then I'm fairly certain there was a bit of an after celebration. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So for me, I had to go work the post game. So I was pretty much jumping out of my chair for an hour after the game, trying to break down, every angle of the goal. And I don't know if it was a good show or a bad show, but I
It's a
felt like
great
I was
show.
pretty jacked up about it. So it must have been pretty good. But so after that, we the whole team and some of the other people involved, we went to a restaurant and had a little private room, and they had a flight the next morning, so it wasn't this crazy extravagant thing, but just having dinner and um, obviously a couple drinks, and guys stood up to talk, and congratulations, still one more to go. That was the message as well. But obviously I'm not on the team, but to be able to go there and share that moment with those guys was pretty cool for me.
Barry, to you, what was Friday night like? You before we started the record, you talked about sort of, and we've talked about authenticating live events. You've never authenticated an event like this because this is the ascendance to the mountaintop, and it's different from outdoor games, and it's different from a Stanley Cup final. Every eye of the sports world, they were playing these highlights of the tying and then the lead, him becoming number one. They were playing these on baseball stadiums and tribute videos, which were pre-cut but coming in from all over the place. You were at the center of the sports universe. Talk to me about what it was like for you.
So, as an authenticator, our job is to make sure history is properly preserved. So, you're excited for the moment, but you can't be in awe of the moment because you have to do what you have to do. You only get one chance. So, my night was pretty calm until he got the first one because, he can't get to 895 before he gets 893 and 894. And so I was embedded in the Capitals locker room. And as soon as he got the first one, Then all of a sudden, I'm on my toes, on my feet, because the tying goal, this is all pre-programmed. We know there's not going to be a ceremony. We know that the team will be allowed to leave the bench, which is, that's usually a 2-minute penalty. But the NHL approved that the Caps could all jump over the bench and celebrate with him. But my job is to authenticate that tying jersey, which occurred as soon as the period was over. We had planned weeks in advance for the entire situation. Obviously, we didn't know where it was going to be. We had to have enough jerseys because Ovi was going to change as soon as he scored. We had to have enough place to know where to go. And as an authenticator, I have to be on site, but I can't be seen beforehand. I'm not sitting on the bench like with a towel over my shoulder like an equipment guy. I've got to like come up through out of thin air. And a guy my size, that's pretty hard to do. So the thing that made me laugh and gave me a breath of relief is I did not know that he did not plan to score into the empty net. So I was so on guard as soon as Spencer Knight was pulled, and I couldn't watch. You don't have a really good seat because you got to be out of the way and invisible, but close enough so that if he scores, you're right there to capture the jersey. And I see Ryan Leonard take off, and I'm saying, why isn't he turning around looking at Ovi? Like, where is he looking for? Because I didn't know Ovi wasn't on the ice. So when I saw that Ryan score the goal and salted away, I thought, okay, it's time to pack up and go to Long Island. Little do we know that Ovi had 3 great chances
Yes.
at 5-3 once Knight came in, which was so typical. And like you said earlier, Devante, I really thought he was going to get all 3 there. I mean, this magician can do whatever he wants with a puck, and I thought he was going to get it. So I was kind of surprised he did not in the last seconds. We had already secured 894 between the second and third period. So my night was done, and then it was off to starting a plan for, I think, everybody on the planet, maybe with the exception of Lou Lamoriello, knew he was going to get 895 on the island. I mean, I heard some buzz that he's going to be scratched. They're going to wait. He's going to want to do it at home. There's no way. We knew that there wasn't a chance in hell that he wanted to be scratched. This guy loves to score goals, loves to play hockey. So then we started getting ready for Sunday.
And there's stuff available at MeiGray.com, of course, sweaters from all throughout the Great Chase. And there's that amazing auction going on that MeiGray has partnered up with Heritage. Go check it out. I want to get the link right. Sports.ha.com. The HA is for Heritage Auction, but sports.ha.com. Amazing, amazing stuff with names far, along with Ovi, Gretzky, Crosby, McDavid, and the like, and just go there and check it out and bid often because these pieces are absolutely amazing. So, Barry, you make plans for Sunday, and I saw you on TV and I saw you in the stills, but you weren't, you were, it was very hidden. You were the best guest at the surprise party, basically.
Well,
so you did your job. Now, what changed for Sunday?
Okay, so first of all, the other one thing yet still on Friday night, we did authenticate the nameplates in the lockers and the ancillary items. Mm-hmm. And that's still to be decided what the Hall of Fame is going to want, what Ovi's going to want. So that's a work in progress. But our job is to authenticate everything relevant from both the tying and winning goal. So Sunday, I got to the island early, again, started planning and really knew that this was going to be the night. There was discussions and there was a plan for Ovi. We knew there was going to be a 15-minute ceremony. We knew there was going to be a break. And we knew that Ovi wanted to change jerseys throughout the game. So he could have one for the Hall of Fame, one for himself, one for the Capitals, etc. So as the second he scored, we all went into action. And that was probably the most exciting moment, incident, authenticating activity of my 28 years at MeiGray, because I know as a former sports writer and someone who's done this with Stephen Curry, with LeBron James, there's so much going on. There's so much excitement. Gretzky is walking on the ice. His mom is walking on the ice, that I needed to be invisible, but be there for the change. And it was so interesting. And Devante, you'll understand this. Hockey guys will understand this. So I'm in the tunnel, but right by the edge of the bench where the bench lifts up so that the players can walk off. So I'm out of the way, but I'm right there. Ovi comes over, and I did not want to have one of those horrifying national TV moments where you hand the jersey and he forgets and you're stuck there with the next jersey in your hand and nothing happens. So I had the jersey, the one he was going to wear after he was going to give me $8.95 for authentication. I had it in a blue bag. And he comes over and he hugs Brock Miles, the equipment manager, and Woody Leidig, the assistant equipment manager, and a couple of other employees. And then he looks at me and I take like an inch of the jersey out of the bag. And I see that, Devante, when you take it off a hockey jersey, the first thing you do is reach behind you for the fight strap. So
Yeah.
no, it's not this. It's
Yeah.
the second I saw him reach for the fight strap, the jersey comes out. We make eye contact. He knows it's me he has to give the jersey to. And then we knew we had to do it really quickly. That 20-second change. And then I'm out of there. We had a place where it was going to be locked up, photographed, authenticated, the serial numbers of the shirt recorded, all of those things pre-planned. And then the jersey is now authenticated, immortalized. And that was when I got a chance my heart started again. So that was what it was like for me.
Very, very cool. Barry, you mentioned the nameplate still sort of TBD. Can you talk about what items will be available from the historic weekend that MeiGray will be offering to collectors and fans, aside from, again, go to MeiGray.com and there's sweaters throughout the Great Chase?
We already have the warm-up pucks and the morning skate pucks that we authenticated on site from both Friday and Sunday. They won't be lasting long. We saw they're selling really quickly, obviously. Everything else is TBD, but there's still conversations that need to be had with the relevant parties as to what goes to Hall of Fame, what gets memorialized. Ovi is talking about and is planning his museum in Russia. So some of those items are still to be determined.
DSP, over to you. Your Sunday experience at USB. I saw you there sitting in the box, and Oshie's there, and Backstrom's there, and you guys are looking chill, and it happens. Do you think that so here's what got me, and then please weigh in. I loved the road receptions to Alex's goals as he got closer. I watched the game at Boston. Right at Boston, yes. There was, and it was just like Ovi, and then the people in New York. And there were a lot of Caps fans that made up the day trip because it was like have an early breakfast, shoot up through Philly, go up the Turnpike, go out, no big deal. The road receptions like made my heart smile, man.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch and be a part of, especially the Sunday. It must have been about 70% Caps fans, 30 Islanders fans. It was insane, and I love watching. I watched the video of the goal a whole bunch of times, but seeing people with Islanders jerseys jump up and celebrate as well, like it was hilarious to see. But that whole Sunday was extremely special. We went into that game. We knew he was scoring. It wasn't. There was actually zero doubt. Like we were not talking about Thursday at home. We weren't talking about traveling on the weekend after that. We knew that he was getting it done that night. And the first period was a tough start for both teams. A little bit of a groggy start, I'll say, for both teams. So, but we knew all he needed is half a decent chance, and he was going to score. So there was no doubt in our mind.
Yeah, Scott, my thought, Devante, I'm a lot older than you. As a former sports writer, I started covering the sport in 1978. I'm a kid who grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the blue seats of Madison Square Garden. But the thing that struck me from the first team I covered in the late 70s, and I'm sure you know this, Devante, and you should be proud of it because you're a lot bigger a part of it than I is that hockey, more than any other professional sport, is a fraternity. And it's a family. And Scott, when you reference the fans, the hockey people understand greatness and specialness. And there was something about, we all know it was a game, and it was an important game to the Islanders. They're hanging on by the skin of their teeth to try to make the playoffs. But there's such an appreciation more than any other sport for greatness and records and immortality. And so that's what struck me. I wasn't surprised that he got the reaction he got. I wasn't surprised that 70-30. I agree, Devante. I think it was about 70-30. And people were paying $1,000 a pop. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
the tickets online were going crazy. But that is the hockey world. That is what hockey is about. And all of us who love hockey, and I know I'm preaching to the choir in this podcast and our listeners, but when I talk to devotees of other sports, because MeiGray does authenticate in all 4 sports, there is nothing like the hockey pulse, the hockey mentality. And I think everybody who's involved with hockey, and as a former NHL or Devante now working in media, you guys should be proud. It's a prideful thing.
Yeah, and I think just walking down the halls and seeing a bunch of people that I haven't seen in a while, I think everyone felt the same way. Everyone was excited that all eyes were on our game. Being able to see something that, listen, I don't know anyone that actually thought something like this would happen. So seeing everyone kind of enjoy it, to me, that was very, very nice.
I wanted to ask you that, Devante, did you guys back, I know you played 17, 18, and 18, 19 with the Caps. Did guys start doing the math back then? Did anybody think about it?
No, not at all, honestly. He scored number, I think, 600 my first year, and we were like, ooh, that's a lot of goals. Like, we weren't even, 800 was so out of the picture. It just, no one ever said, oh, maybe you can get to 800, maybe you could catch Gretzky. It was, wow, 600 is a lot. Let's see how many more. I None of us at that time were thinking that this could happen. You just assume Father Time will just catch up, and although he has slowed down a little bit, um, I guess he's just gone smarter in the way he still gets it done. It's that long ago, no one in our room thought this was possible.
But in that room, you wound up being a really big part of a championship team and 7 goals in the postseason, including,
Yeah.
again, that most notable one. What do you remember about that moment in Game 5, Devante? Aside from going across the street eventually and partying in the MGM Grand and the what's the hell's the club's name? I'm drawing a blank.
Hakkasan, I think we were at.
Hakkasan, that's
Yeah,
exactly what it is. It's Hakkasan. I was there once. I
yeah,
looked really out of place. It was very dark. I was blinking a lot, but it was really cool. I couldn't hear my friend standing next to me. I can only imagine that place is on tilt when the Stanley Cup champions come rolling through with the cup. Tell me about the goal. Tell me about that night and fond memories.
yeah. The goal, honestly, it was such a blur. I mean, I watched it a million times now, so like I see what's going on, but um, it was just something that's something that we honestly throughout the year practiced, is like taking pucks off your skate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you saw in game 4, Oshie scored a goal like taking a puck off his feet. I think in that game I also scored a goal taking on my feet. It's something that we were messing around at the end of practice, kind of um, we'd shoot pucks into each other's feet and try and control it and get a shot off. So it's just funny how I don't think we scored a goal like that the whole year, but in the biggest moment, it was just um, reaction and something that we had been practicing. So after I scored, I mean, you could see it in the corner camera angle, my face, like I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't believe it, right? So, and then after that, Lars Eller scores with about 7 minutes to go, I think, and that last 6 minutes was the longest 6 minutes of my life. It felt long, just obviously because of the situation, but there was whistle after whistle. We iced it about 10 times. There was a clock malfunction, which took up like 3 minutes of our time. We were missing empty nets. We were just it was it took so long, that 5-6 minutes. It took probably a year off my life. I was stressing so hard, but um, yeah. And then when that buzzer goes, I mean, it's hard to explain that feeling. It's I can't really put into words. It's your lifelong dream. That's all I ever thought about when I was younger. Um, it wasn't to play, 500 games in the NHL or to play in the play. It wasn't. It was nothing. It was none of those steps beforehand. It was always you originally went to winning the Stanley Cup and scoring a goal in the Stanley Cup Finals and stuff like that. So that feeling is crazy. And as far as that whole night went, I mean, there was a lot of drinking, a lot of yelling, and not much sleep. So the next, I would say, week was literally a blur because I don't really remember much.
The parade was amazing, and Barry, I'll let you have it in a second. The parade was amazing. There's a very famous waterfront. Now there's a plaque at the Washington Harbor, like in the Georgetown Harbor, where there's several restaurants. It's a lovely place to go and hang out, but made more lovely from Ovi and Oshie and Devante and the guys, literally, Barry, swimming in the fountain. And you can just do a Google search. It's one for the ages. And Oshie drinking the beer through the T-shirt.
Yeah,
Just endless fun.
So, Devante, I want to ask you about goals because
yeah.
I covered New York hockey in the mid 80s to the late 90s, and two things stand out here as it applies to you. I wrote Mike Bossy's autobiography, and Mike Bossy was the greatest goal scorer until Ovi. And Bossy always used to say, I know I can score goals on any goalie at any time. And that's the mindset that maybe 3 or 4 people in the history of hockey have. Then there's everybody else. And I also covered the reason I bring that up is because of the 1989-90 Capital Series, the guy you've been compared to, John Druce, when another workman-like guy who was a good plodding, plugging, two-way forward suddenly scores at will, which is what you did in the most important series the Washington Capitals have played in their history. And you scored 7 goals in 75 games that year. You're a checking defensive winger. And then you score 7 in the most important. Can you think about your mindset? Do you start believing you scored a goal in game 3, goal in game 4, and the tying goal in game 5? That only happens to goal scorers. So what is do you go from, hey, I'm just a guy in the NHL trying to check my man and make sure I cover my position, to I know I can score. Does that happen in the flash of a series or a game when you're on a hot streak?
It's so hard to explain. I think for me, my whole life before the NHL was goal scoring. I scored a lot in the AHL before I was a regular. Scored a lot in junior. So I think there's, when it comes to, the season's long, there's a lot of nitpicking by coaches and stuff like that. I think what helps for me is that there's no more of the nitpicking and the um the picking on stuff that might not matter. It's kind of, we're playing to win now. We're not going to change the lineup for no reason. We're not going to cut your ice down for no reason. We're going to need everyone to play, and if you're playing well, you're going to continue to play. So it's tough to really put your finger on it, but for some reason the playoffs, I think it probably has something to do with maybe my just demeanor overall. I'm pretty relaxed guy just to begin with. So when things are getting super intense, yeah, I obviously feel the moment. I understand what's going on. It's how important every shift is and how important certain points of the game are. But um, my demeanor never really changes. I'm kind of just always relaxed and pretty chill. So I think that kind of helps in playoffs when stuff gets really tight. Guys maybe are gripping their stick a little bit, or um, they kind of lose their brain because they're so nervous or anything like that. Um, I kind of always just am relaxed.
It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 53, talking greatness with DSP, Devante Smith-Pelly, former Cap, former Anaheim Duck, former Montreal Canadian, New Jersey Devil, Barry Meisel, president and COO of MeiGray.com, joining us to talk about, now that he's reached the top of the mountain, Alex Ovechkin, sort of where do we go from here? Barry, every jersey after 895 is a new record. Yeah, it's that, and that's mind blowing as a collector and as a hockey fan. What does that do to the market? What does that do? Where does MeiGray fall into this now that it's 896, 7, 8? Is Alex, and Alex loves this stuff, obviously. Is he going to say, I'd like 900, I'd like 915, 920? These are, I guess, unanswerable. But if there's anybody with an answer,
he is getting 900. We will never market a jersey until he has scored another goal. If he scores tomorrow night, 896 is the all-time record,
right?
And that will remain until he gets 897. So we are conscious that every goal is the all-time record, and a lot of this we're going to see as we go along. He's under contract for another year. I think he has said he wants to play one more year. I think everybody wonders if the Caps win the Cup and they have a realistic chance because of the phenomenal season they're having, does he fulfill the last year of his contract? He's also only, I did the math today, only 50 goals from Gretzky for the combined record of regular season and playoffs. And a good playoff run, let's give him 11 in the playoffs. Let's give him another goal or two in the regular season, 37 next year, and he's won that record. He's passed Gretzky for the combined. So to answer your question, there's still momentous jerseys that Ovi's going to want, that Ovi's going to be presented with, that are going to occur, because I don't think he's finished. I think in our podcast a couple of weeks ago, Scott, and I'm sticking with it, I said 936.
Okay.
I think that's going to be I think that's going to be the number. Devante, I wanted to ask you one more thing. I don't know if you're a collector or not. What do you have from 2018?
I think I have pretty much all my equipment except, I gave my helmet to somebody. I definitely still have jerseys. I have a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm not like a collector, so it's kind of just all over the place. Like,
Sure.
But yeah, I think all my equipment is still there. Like I said, one of my helmets I gave away to somebody. I think I want to say at some point, I'm not sure if it was my gloves or my stick went to the Hall of Fame for a little bit. But everything besides that, I've got somewhere kicking around.
Good. I know as the authenticator, and we have a protocol for every finals team we work with, that we make sure there's an extra white and red that you guys are wearing that remains with the player. The red jersey, I think, was the one you wore at the parade. I'm hoping you still have that.
Oh yeah, I have so many jerseys. It's like hard to even keep track of when I wore that, when I wore that. I know obviously the ones that have the Stanley Cup
the finals
patch on it. I know where those are from, but I have so many other jerseys that I'm just like, I have no idea when I wore those.
Devante, my suggestion is take those jerseys with the finals patch, the white and the red that you know you wore, put them under your bed or in a safe, or those are very, very valuable, and as great a part of that championship you were. Don't go letting that leave your possession.
Yeah, no, those ones are hanging up, but like I know where they are. It's just more the equipment who is tucked away somewhere.
Do you know if you have the stick from the tying goal? Do you know if you have that exact stick?
I don't have that stick. That might have been what went to the Hall. I can't remember what went to the Hall of Fame. It might have been that. But that exact stick I don't have now.
Well, how does that make you feel? That one of your goal scoring sticks is in the Hall of Fame. That's got to be a great feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean, before that series, I mean, I had a good career, and I wasn't an awful player or anything like that, but that's not exactly something expected, right? It's to have my stick go to the Hall of Fame or gloves or whatever it was. Um, it's insane. It's insane to think about. It's something I never would have dreamed of.
Well, that's the crossover into our world, because the collectors, the people in our world who are the ones going to the Hall of Fame and salivating and thinking about how they can get through the glass and take it home. So so by by accomplishing the feat, you exhilarate the world I work and live in. And so congratulations to you. And I say this to all the guys. Sometimes you don't appreciate, I know everybody appreciates the fans, but the world of collectability, of nostalgia, is so pervasive in our country. You know, you guys are not far from the Smithsonian, and now Washington Capitals artifacts become pieces of Americana and a pieces of history.
Yeah.
Interesting to look at it that way. DSP, and again, as a collector, I loved hockey long before I started collecting. Collecting helps me to, it just adds a little something. So much respect to you. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Real
Thank you,
quick
guys.
mention, of course, go to MeiGray.com. There are jerseys from the Great Chase. Of course, lots of Ovechkin to peruse and purchase, and just each one of them, goals, no goals, games, milestones, momentous occasions. Be part of the Great Chase. Ovechkin jerseys for sale at MeiGray.com, and also ongoing at a collaboration between MeiGray and Heritage. The 11-item auction has names to die for, including Ovechkin, Gretzky, Yager, and Crosby. Go there, check it out, and bid, because that stuff is Hall of Fame worthy. For Devante, for Barry, I'm Scott. Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 53, talking greatness with DSP. Until next time, thank you, gentlemen. The warehouse is closed.